Srimati Charulata Eskar holds a master's degree in commerce from the University of Mumbai, specializing in banking and finance. She has done postgraduate in treasury and forex management from the ICFAI Tripura. She is also a certified associate of Indian Institute of Bankers. That's really commendable and a prestigious thing for all of us. She joined RBI as an officer in 1991 and has worked in RBI regional offices and at central office departments. She is currently the Executive Director in charge of Human Resources Management, Information Technology and Communication in the RBI. She has also been on deputation to the Training Institute of the Central Bank of Oman at Muscat for 2 years. She has represented the RBI in international working groups of the Committee on Payment and Settlement Systems, Bank for International Settlements, which studied and published reports on innovations in retail payments, role of non-banks in retail payments and fast payments. She has also represented RBI as a speaker and resource person in many domestic and international forums, seminars, and workshops. Welcome to you, ma'am, and over to you. Thank
you. Can you get this? Can't help it. That's a structural problem, I guess. Okay. So a very good morning to all of you. Dohare ji, Bhagat ji and Das ji, thank you for having me here, and a very warm welcome to all the delegates from different banking institutes across the world. I'm sure forums of this kind not only give us an opportunity to share our experiences, but also a great opportunity to interact and see what's happening across our counterparts in different parts of the world. And I thank IIBF for hosting this event here. And I understand that this event is held in person once in 2 years. So the last event was held in 2022. Yeah, in Mongolia, and which had a hybrid mode of participation. And I think very aptly at that point of time, the theme was revolving around how to deal with post-pandemic issues. But yes, the pandemic is now behind us, but there are vestiges of the impact it has left on all of us, being, perhaps once in a lifetime kind of an event for most of us. So, the theme for this conference is quite apt, I would say. And the speakers before me have spoken about many facets of this. So I will not deliberate a lot on all those topics. I will just briefly talk of, something which is, what should I say, more like sharing my thoughts on the challenges that are presently there. And more importantly, as bankers who have to face these challenges, how we are going to do, how we are making ourselves resilient, and how capacity building can help us take a long way in meeting those challenges. So as I said, once again, a very warm welcome to all the delegates. The IIBF itself is nearly hitting a century, very short. So, and it has played a stellar role in the Indian banking system, definitely. And as we were all being introduced, we all felt very proud when it was told that we are certified associates of the Indian Institute of Bankers. But I'm sure many bankers who are present here, at least from India, and I think equally it's counterparts across the world, getting this certificate has not been so easy for most of us. So all of us have very fond and not very fond memories of writing those exams, and at the end of it feeling very jubilant. Oh, now I've done my part 1 and then finally my part 2, and it's behind. But every time when you're introduced and your qualifications include the certified associate of the Indian Institute of Bankers, at least I feel very proud about it. So I'm sure that resonates with most of the people in this room. Now, the fundamental activity of banks, enabling efficient allocation of resources, managing risks through various instruments, and ensuring smooth payments and settlements for a well-functioning economy it remains the same across the globe. However, the banking industry is undergoing a significant paradigm shift. Traditional models of banking are being challenged by the rise of fintech companies and technological advancements or innovations, which are creating new ways of providing financial services. This shift is redefining customer expectations. It's demanding greater agility and digital transformation from banks. So what I would like to do is very briefly touch upon the transformation or transformative changes that is taking place in the design and delivery of financial services, highlighting how tech-savvy, agile, and customer-driven service models are reshaping the financial system, and also share a few thoughts of my on the strategic HR transformations that are needed to foster our ability to meet these paradigm shifts in the banking sector, particularly regarding leadership development and skill enhancements. And I think most of the delegates and the IIBF present here are into this business of capacity building, right? So I think this is something very interesting. While we understand the challenges, I think a greater thought also needs to go in to see how our community, our member community, are really prepared or geared up to meet these challenges. Now, it is really heartening to know that the word, resilience, inclusiveness, and sustainability have been considered for further discussion during the course of this conference. At the very outset, the financial sector is vulnerable to risks, especially ones or systemic ones that, if left unchecked, can have far-reaching consequences which can be detrimental to the economy. So the growing interconnections between financial institutions, markets, and the broader economy make the system more open to shocks, and in that context, resilience, inclusiveness, and sustainability attain far greater significance than the mere meaning of these words. Even as the world around us is rapidly changing, traditional banks are undergoing, or rather they are forced to undergo, major digital transformations to meet the needs of new customers, as also the customers who are seeking a more tailored and customized banking experience through digital channels or digital journeys. Some of the key features of such digital transformation include end-to-end digital customer journey. I'm sure many people sitting here in this room may take a little while to recognize when exactly they went to a bank branch, right? So, and our visits to the bank branches are getting far and few as days go by, as we adapt and adopt technology more by the day. So these kind of digital customer journeys, modernized infrastructure and data analytics, they pose definite challenges, and they are powered through application programming interfaces. The changes in the digitalization or digitization mechanisms within the banks, adoption of technology, and the kind of technology that is being adopted is also transforming. So today you have a lot of API based, this one, cloud computing, artificial intelligence and machine learning, Internet of Things, blockchain, distributed ledger technology, all of these are coming into the fray. So all of these have made advancements in technology, ubiquitous internet connectivity, and faster data processing. These are enhancing or reinforcing the challenges that even otherwise exist for the banking and financial system. Now let me briefly touch upon few developments, and I'm also mindful of time, and I don't want to keep you all away from the more interesting discussions that are lined up for the day. Now, in India, there was a mention about this made by Bhagat ji. The National Mission for Financial Inclusion, or the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, which played a very significant role or has been a prime mover of mass-scale financial inclusion in the country. While there have been massive strides done in the area of opening formal bank accounts, coupled with speedy payments through the Unified Payments Interface, again a reference has already made to it, but there continues to be a gap when it comes to speedier processing of credit. The challenges are there are diverse sources of financial and non-financial data which are required by the lenders for digital credit delivery. And this kind of data exists in silos across different entities, including the state and central government authorities, then account aggregators, credit companies, digital identity authorities, so many entities and organizations and institutions are involved in this entire process. To facilitate the efficient delivery of frictionless credit, the Reserve Bank has recently announced the Unified Lending Interface. The Unified Lending Interface, or the ULI, is a technology platform built to facilitate easy access to authenticated data from various sources through standardized APIs to which all lenders can connect seamlessly through a plug-and-play model. Earlier, this was in the name of PTPFC, or the Public Tech Platform for Frictionless Credit. We thought we will make it rhyming with UPI, which has been a transformative force for payments in the country. Why country? In the world, I would proudly say. So today we are looking at the trinity of JAM, that is the Jan Dhan accounts, Aadhaar, the unique biometric identification, and the mobile, which is becoming a very favored channel for accessing financial services. Then the UPI, the Unified Payment Interface, and the ULI, Unified Lending Interface. So this, we hope, is going to be the new trinity. JAM, UPI, and ULI. This will be a revolutionary step forward in India's digital infrastructure as well as financial inclusion journey. And I think the bankers in India are very alive and aware to the challenges and how to gear up for this kind of expectations, and not just from the regulator definitely, but from their own customers. Besides this, in recent years, the Reserve Bank has also undertaken several other initiatives to support the development of digital public infrastructure and establish robust institutional frameworks. The introduction of the regulatory sandbox as part of the fintech journey is a framework to provide a controlled environment for testing new financial products, services, or business models with real customers under regulatory oversight. So earlier, we had things on paper, and the proof of pudding would be only when you get on to the business, when you go live. But today we have, and this is not just here, but there are many countries where we have these sandboxes where you're allowed to first test, and test in a controlled environment, see the outcomes, and you have enough opportunity to fix things or fine-tune things before you actually go live. The Reserve Bank in this context is also organizing global hackathons under the Harbinger initiative, which rewards winners and provides stipends for shortlisted teams to support prototyping of their solutions. The Reserve Bank Innovation Hub has been set up and has been instrumental in advancing digital solutions, such as the fully digital and streamlined delivery of the Kisan Credit Card farm loans. While the above developments showcase the positive aspects of massive strides in technology and banking to foster inclusion, there are also several forms of risks that the new paradigm of digital banking brings before us, and these challenges require definite attention. Issues that could take a few days to materialize earlier can now happen in a matter of hours due to the speed of internet and mobile banking. Additionally, the increasing reliance on technology also introduces vulnerabilities such as dependence on third-party service providers, sometimes single vendors who are providing the service, heightened cybersecurity threats. All this while the customer's expectations for uninterrupted services does not diminish. Rather, the tolerance for any kind of disruption in service is getting lower and lower by the day by the customers. In today's ever-increasing connected world, data centricity is driving and predicting the most important decisions, processes, and interactions within banks as also with their clients, resulting in transformation in data landscape and internal procedures to prepare for this kind of digital transformation and a data-driven future. There are several key drivers which underpin this kind of transformation. I've possibly already mentioned them. First is the customers themselves are becoming digitally savvy, which is requiring banks to enhance their digital agility to meet their demand. Secondly, the financial technology or the fintech ecosystem continues to evolve, offering efficient services that are integral to the banking value chain. So many of us would have heard the word of, competition, cooperation, and in fact, in between, I even heard a word called co-opetition. So it is like compete and cooperate with the, the fintech companies for your own inorganic growth or organic growth, the way you would have it. And lastly, the banking sector is becoming increasingly interconnected with other stakeholders, demanding robust data handling capabilities to capitalize on this interconnected landscape. Now, to fully benefit from data-driven decision making, there is a need to put in place a policy for data governance and data security. We are having the law soon coming up with greater rules for data governance framework. Needless to say, any model is as good as the data and the assumptions thereof. The advent of artificial intelligence and machine learning, while improving convenience and speedy decision making, should be tested thoroughly to ensure that there are no built-in biases in the. I think we have read enough about the biases which AI has brought in, much to the embarrassment of many entities who have had to take back some of these models. Additionally, the performance of the models also needs to be verified independently, and the models need to be tested based on accountability and explainability, not just to supervisors, but to give an assurance to the management itself. This further heightens the importance of good quality and consistent data on which such models are built. Now, let me briefly touch upon one other important area, that of sustainable finance. Policymakers across the world are increasingly recognizing climate change's important implications for the financial sector. Climate change affects the financial system through two main channels. Perhaps I'm preaching to the choir. The first involves physical risk arising from damage to property, infrastructure, and land. And the second, the transition risk, results from changes in climate policy, technology, consumer and market sentiment during the adjustment to a lower carbon economy. Some of the steps already taken within India, I'm talking about, include green finance initiatives such as the inclusion of finance to renewable energy projects in directed lending, that is priority sector lending, issuance of sovereign green bonds by the Government of India, establishing a framework for acceptance of green deposits, and developing a disclosure framework on climate-related financial risks and the guidance on climate scenario analysis and stress testing. There is a panel discussion further in the day, and one of my colleagues from the Reserve Bank is also being a part of that panel. So I'm sure that's going to elicit a lot of interest and discussion as part of this conference. Now, having discussed the evolving landscape of banking, let me now emphasize on the importance of leadership and the human resource transformation in successfully navigating these challenges and unlocking the new opportunities. First and foremost, leadership commitment is essential for building a knowledgeable and capable workforce. Leaders must not only champion lifelong learning, but also embody it, fostering an environment where continuous learning is both valued and encouraged. This evolves, and I think this is also visible when you look at the IIBF website, where you find numerous kinds of courses tailored to meet the current capacity building initiatives or requirements. This involves dedicating resources and time to initiatives such as structured training programs, mentoring opportunities, and knowledge sharing forums such as what we are here today. A focus on targeted learning and capacity building programs is equally important, helping employees develop critical skills, adapt to new technologies, and stay ahead of industry trends. By investing in both formal training and a culture of growth, leaders can ensure that the workforce is prepared to tackle both current challenges as well as future demands. Beyond promoting a culture of continuous learning, effective leaders must demonstrate empathy, collaboration, and inclusivity. These values are critical in creating an organizational culture that promotes open communication, psychological safety, and inclusion of diverse perspectives. Why I'm talking about these aspects is because all of us have heard of the term VUCA, right? A situation which is, or the world around us, the environment around us is being more vulnerable and uncertain and complex. So to deal with this, and plus let's also be mindful of the fact that the today I think Mr. Bhagatji spoke about the average age of an Indian. But I would like to just take that and make us reflect for ourselves what's the transformative human resource demographics within our respective industry and our organizations. I think we are going to be having more and more of millennials and Gen Z, and the expectations and the behavior of this set of demographic profile of the human resource. We cannot turn a blind eye to it. So whatever capacity building that we do, whatever organization culture that we try to evolve, not just for individual institutions, but sometimes at an industry level, we have to be very mindful of it. And whatever steps we take has to be geared, keeping this aspect also as part of the focus area. So a focus on targeted, as I said, targeted training and capacity building programs is equally important in helping the employees develop critical skills, adapt to new technologies, and stay ahead of industry trends. Beyond promoting a culture of continuous learning, as I said, we have to have an empathetic view about this. Now, when employees feel safe to share ideas and take risks, they become more resilient and engaged in collective problem solving, which ultimately drives innovation. Cultivating a culture of resilience and calculated risk taking is therefore very vital. Innovation requires a willingness to explore new approaches and stepping out of the comfort zones, while resilience ensures that setbacks are seen as learning opportunities and not roadblocks. So by encouraging a mindset that values risk-taking and persistence, we empower our workforce to confidently navigate a rapidly changing environment, enabling leaders to not only manage change, but actively inspire it. Enhancing the employee experience is also critical to attracting and retaining top talent. I think in an industry which is known for facing challenges of attrition, particularly in recent times when you have technology stepping in and allowing people to do different kinds of or pursue different opportunities. So we have to be also mindful of retaining the talent that we have nurtured. A positive employee experience promotes engagement and commitment, directly contributing to organizational success. Additionally, regular feedback mechanisms allow employees to feel heard and enable the management to respond to their needs in a timely manner. I think any organization definitely invests in employee engagement methodologies. Developing a strong pipeline of future leaders is another top priority. We must implement comprehensive leadership development programs that identify high potential employees and provide them with opportunities for growth. Tools like coaching, mentoring, 360-degree feedback, development, and assessment centers can support these goals. These programs should focus on cultivating both technical skills, such as, say, for example, data analytics, and interpersonal skills like emotional intelligence. A well-rounded skill set ensures that future leaders are equipped to guide their teams through complex challenges and a continually evolving operational landscape. You can't segregate or differentiate one from the other. The capacity building initiatives of IIBF and the APABI are truly impressive and hold promise for continuous development of banking professionals. The IIBF's comprehensive range of qualifications and continuous learning courses resources, including self-paced courses, e-learning modules, and online mock tests, provide excellent opportunities for professionals to enhance their skills. Additionally, the IIBF Leadership Center's state-of-art facilities and specialized training programs further support this mission of capacity building, at least for the Indian banking system. Similarly, APABI's biennial conferences and virtual roundtables focused on human capital development are vital for equipping banking institutions with the necessary skills to navigate transformative changes in the industry. The collaborative capacity building initiatives of APABI's 21 member institutes are invaluable, I would say. The conferences and roundtable meetings facilitate the exchange of best practices and promote a deeper understanding of diverse banking environments and challenges. This kind of cross-country peer-level learning is essential for addressing global banking issues and staying ahead of these transformative developments and challenges. In conclusion, as we stand at the threshold of such transformative changes, the future of banking lies in resilience, inclusivity, and sustainability, supported by a foundation of continuous innovation and a skilled, adaptive workforce. This paradigm shift requires us not only to embrace advanced digital technologies and data-driven decision-making, but also to remain vigilant to the associated risks and challenges. By fostering an organizational culture of learning, resilience, and empathetic leadership, we can empower our workforce to navigate these changes confidently. Together, we can build a robust and forward-looking financial ecosystem, one that not only adapts to the future, but also serves as a genuine partner in driving societal growth and well-being. I'm sure there will be very fruitful deliberations on the above technical as well as some of the soft skill issues that I have been speaking about. I wish the conference all success. Thank you very much.